Hello, Awards Watch listeners and readers. This is staff writer Ryan McQuaid with my latest interview with the head designer of hair and makeup for Dune, Donald Mowat. It's the second time I spoke with Mr. Mowat this award season, and this go round we follow back up on our conversation back from October in Middleburg, where we discuss his work on Denis Villeneuve's sci-fi film Dune, as well as discuss what it's like being a first-time Oscar nominee. It was a privilege speaking with them, and here is my conversation with Donald Mowat. Well, it's been a couple months since I've seen you, and it's been a crazy Oscar season. You guys have been all over the place doing Q&As and stuff. And the last time since we talked, the movies come out, and I felt like we had a secret together, you and I, when we were talking. So what has it been like to receive the reaction, a very positive reaction for the film?
You know, it's just been extraordinary. I felt like the support and I've never had anything like it in my life. Never. I mean, I don't know. It's like when we talked about, Middleburg, and it seems like a lifetime ago, but that's like everything, I think, in this. Don't you feel that? It's kind of like when you're a kid and summer feels like a year. It's been an incredible time to really, because you get to talk to people a little bit more, a little bit longer. Just from Venice, seeing the movie, I've never had a in cinema experience like that in my life.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I've seen something I've worked on, and I haven't got over it really. So, or working with those people, the people I loved working with. But let me turn that off. Sorry. So it's to have a positive experience with great people, and then meeting people who feel that way. So, and I've made so many, cliche, I've made great friends, but I met you, I met a few people who are film lovers and filmmakers and passionate about it. And it's like reading books, isn't it? It's like meeting people who love movies and love books. It's exciting for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've been able to see the film in theaters a couple more times, and I watched it with packed audiences. And, so when I first saw it was, at a critic screening, and the experience is just different every time. It feels unique. It feels special, much like your work on this project. And when we last talked, you weren't an Oscar nominee, but now you are an Oscar nominee. And so, and we talked about what that feeling would be like, but I want to throw it back to you. How did you find out about the nomination, and what does it feel like to be Oscar nominee Donald Mowat?
Well, it's been, we've heard people talk about it, and sometimes, you think, God, it's a little bit, when people say, I can't believe it. And, I can't believe it. I can believe it because people talk about it. I don't want to be pretentious and false. No, people talked about it. You and I talked about it. I was thrilled. Jake Gyllenhaal, we were shooting on set. This is really what happened. He made me listen to the announcement because I wouldn't. And we were shooting and we were about to roll, and he had the phone out and he kept talking about it, but for like an hour or two before. And I'm not that guy. I just was like, I can't. I had that funny feeling. People were talking about it. I had a couple of texts saying, good luck. And I thought, oh my God, that's like exam time at school, and I just kind of started feeling sick a little bit. And, I've had disappointment before, it happened before. I've gone to the Bake Off, and I'm delighted to go to the Bake Off. What that's like. You've been to those. To get to the Bake Off, and anybody listening, it's an honor to go to the Bake for anybody in the Academy world.
Yeah.
I mean, makeup, visual effects, we got to really work hard. We got to do this Bake Off. It's hard. People have to see your work and see the film. And I think it's different than just ticking that you love 5 films or whatever it is. When Jake said, Don, you gotta watch, and I couldn't, and he had to go back and do the scene, and I'm doing some makeup on him, the blood and all kinds of stuff, and he was really distracting me. it was his close up. I went, Jake, I got to work. And they called him back in. He goes, can you hang on for a second? I think Donald's going to get nominated. And I was dying. I was just absolutely, my stomach was turning. And they called him back in and he said, just let me know. And somebody held the phone and I couldn't do my job. He rendered me absolutely, I couldn't do it. And of course, then they said it and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I had to match a wound I put up in his head and I couldn't do it. So when people say, I can't believe it, I couldn't. And I saw it and I said, make sure that's my name. Double check when they show you the little thing. Just double check.
Yeah.
And they started to laugh. I said, check that it says Donald Mowat, Mowat. And they said, no, that's your name. Just check Dune, Dun, because that's how I am.
Yeah. You just make sure, like, check the envelope, check everything. Make sure. No,
it was amazing. It's pretty special. I messed up the continuity on that makeup, by the way. So then it was very nice. It was incredible. And the phone started. And then I got a FaceTime, the first person who called me. And it was a very touching experience. It was Mark Wahlberg is the first person to call me and FaceTime me to say, this is time. And I'm so happy about it. And that was Mark Wahlberg. And that actually made me that was almost as good, if not better, than receiving the nomination, because I go back with him, I don't know, 25 years. So I'm so thrilled, into the Academy, all my branch members and friends, because we all go a long way back,
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, Mark Wahlberg was someone you worked with very early in your career, and now you've kind of shifted towards working with Jake a lot. So it's kind of like the two ends of your career colliding on the same day for this big moment, right?
Yeah. I was with Mark on his first Oscar nomination for The Departed.
Yeah. And hopefully you'll be there for Jake's, and return the favor, right? And everything. But then, I mean, you must have talked to Denis at a certain point and talked to everyone. What was the kind of reaction for everyone across the board? I mean, we saw Denis' post, but did you guys able to share a conversation about it?
Yeah, we've all kind of reached out. Patrice, I mean, everybody, we all get along so well. I mean, that was the great thing about the Q&As in LA, because I didn't start this until after the holidays. I came to Spain in the middle of January. So, I'd done Q&As with Joe Walker and Patrice and Jackie and Bob. So, I mean, I think one of the best things about Dune is that, I've never had a Q&A with the director. I had a Q&A with Mary Parent. I've never had that. You also, you know this better than anybody. When you have the group behind you that say, hey, why don't we get the head of makeup and hair and prosthetics on a Q&A, like with somebody? And that's what you need to do. And you get people. I had one with Greg Fraser. And so we've all been together. And I think what was interesting is that we really do like each other, and we've all worked together, and it felt pretty natural. So we're all rooting for each other, and it was great to hear from each other, and we'll see everybody pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing too, is that, like, I was seeing a lot of the Q&As with you and Denis and everything, and it felt like you guys have worked together for so many years and done so many films with Denis, especially. It was like the whole group getting rewarded on that day was phenomenal. I mean, 10 nominations. I mean, that's a great achievement. Could have had a couple more, but we'll take what we want. We take what we get, right?
Yeah. I think sometimes, I think there's a couple missing, but yes. Yeah.
But I watched the film a couple more times since the last time we talked about it, and I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. It's spoilers. We can talk about it. We don't have to be coy anymore, Donald. And so I wanted to dive back in, because I think we were talking about the Baron a little bit, sort of the look of him and everything and what inspired him. But I wanted to talk about the process of making the Baron, the look and everything. Can you dive into it, like the details, you and Denis sitting down and talking about it, and then really what it was like every day having to do that with Stalin, and then of course even sort of towards the end of the shoot or what we see in the film, where obviously the Baron is sort of exposed by the end, what the work was for that whole character's arc throughout the film.
Well, I think the thing that was really interesting, and it became quite funny, I mean, for all of us, was, primarily that as it evolved, and that I think we spoke briefly about it, was when we were finally able to do the first makeup show and tell. Not that we did, Lou Van Ava, who built and engineered the whole suit, which was kind of a remarkable achievement, because just to back it up a little, they had to build a special oven. This was such a big thing for them in a relatively small shop in Stockholm, with a crew of 5, plus bringing in extra sculptors. So, for the sake of saying, when you're building a makeup like that, they added manpower. So getting Montse and David from Spain, who had done Pan's Labyrinth, to come in for 3 weeks. You have to then add on numbers of people to do that detailing sculpt. Get our weekly review up and ready for Denis every week. Show and tell, a test there. Yes, approved. Let's get Stellan into Budapest, do the full makeup. So we'll see it. Everyone sees it. We put it on camera. Greg Fraser, Patrice, all the HODs, costume, everyone looks at this makeup. And of course, Denis it was unbelievable, because Stellan wears the suit. He owns it. He owns the character. He's carrying, I mean, it's roughly 22 pounds suit of both latex and silicone. And Denis he's astounded. I mean, he's astounded by the success of it. And Stellan decides, really, like, he wants to be naked more times than he's not. So we only had the one scene, the very Apocalypse Now with the hand, this business, and the scheme.
Yes.
Then he wants to add more. So for costume, for poor Jackie and Bob, we sort of threw them a curveball, because suddenly he's only going to wear 1 or 2 costumes and the rest will be naked, which changes the schedule, which added a couple of days, because when he's in purely the makeup, which is the fat suit, clothes over it, and then the 8 or 9 silicone pieces, it was a 4.5 hour makeup. By taking the clothes off, adds a couple of hours. So he's then in 6.5 hours. So it did change our schedule. It added a couple of days, which is significant on a movie, to add your days. But he was committed, and Stellan was like, I don't need to break. I can keep going. And that's, it was pretty huge. Denis thought it was, he loved it. Stellan walked very proudly around without his clothes on. And I think it was very funny, because I think some people were kind of quite shocked by it. And we didn't have to, because nudity is nudity for some people, and they want a closed set. It didn't feel that way, because he's a powerful character. It didn't feel like, something strange. He's in a bath. And then I guess the biggest obstacle, certainly for the team that built it, was engineering a double, because we were never going to stunt double Stellan. Never. That became a last minute thing. Patrice, our amazing production designer, called me to say, we're going to fill the tub with something, but I'm not sure. It then became this black oil, which was a crayon based. Well, it was black crayon and oil. That was a little problematic. That required a 6th and 7th day from team, I call them Team Sweden, who had to figure out how to, foam is buoyant, right? The suit was never designed to go underwater. So that required a lot of re-engineering. And, they're prosthetic makeup artists, not engineers. So it took some time. It was kind of remarkable. And everybody did it, and it worked. But there was a couple of days of a lot of stress happening. And, Greg, everybody looked at it and went, we can shoot this as a practical makeup. So that's what I think we're very proud of, because we don't often get, as see a practical makeup of this in a film anymore, for lack of, a budget, availability of actors, time to create prosthetics. people ask all the time, why don't we do that anymore? I went, well, the business changed. You don't have 16 weeks prep. I mean, we're talking about films now where you get an actor the night before, and I mean, I think when people started to realize that, you go, my God, if we didn't have Denis, we didn't have people saying, let's do this, which is what he said, treat it as an experiment. Let's try it. We wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah. Does that worry you in the future for projects and stuff like that too? Is not having the practical, not being able to do that, having to do more character things? I mean, you do a lot of character things. You're working with this cast and everything, but I'm assuming doing something like this is just completely different than what you normally get to do, and it's so much fun to even though it is challenging, it is a lot of fun to do because you're like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I mean, it's like research. What do they call it? Research and development. The fact that I was able to go and talk to Denis because we know each other. If I didn't know him and say, look, can I just level with you? This is what I think. But he trusts me, and I'm so grateful for that. If I didn't know him and had to meet someone for the first time, where you have to kind of talk about it and say, look, I don't know. I need to find the shop that can build this. I mean, it's like finding, who's going to do my contact lenses? Who's going to make my wigs? You have to. And it's funny because I'm looking at the picture behind you of Oscar Isaac, and that's part of our, I think, a pickup shot, and those sorts of things where you go, okay. I mean, on any movie you work on, people forget there's little things you have to ask yourself. And what I love about Denis is you can say to him, okay, you have a week. I can do this in a week, or I can do this, but I would suggest you try this because I can't guarantee it. The beauty of the Baron is that, one, I have Luve Larson and Eva von Bar and the team in Stockholm, the guys and the girls, Oscar and Matthias and Hannah, and of course, David and Monsi, who are, I mean, amazing makeup effects artists in their own right, who won their own Oscar for Pan's Labyrinth, who come to help because we said we need help sculpting. That kind of collaboration within departments, and someone to help sew this fat suit and the wheels start, because everybody loves to work with people and do something, because there's not many opportunities these days of a film where people go, hey, like, who's doing this? It's kind of like, I guess, a Grinch or, a period film with costumes. So everybody wants that experience. It's like doing contact lenses. Of course, we didn't do them in this film, apart from the two girls that are with the Baron at the bathtub. Mm-hmm. But it's really difficult. You need time to get them made. And if you don't have the time or the money, you can't do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would assume when you're talking about like the Baron, you're talking about conditions and stuff. You're shooting a lot on location. So with your experience and everything, working on location, makeup, hair, prosthetics, you name it, especially even on a film like this, because you're out in the desert, it's hot, you're doing a lot of stuff, how do you work with that? How do you work with the conditions that you're given? Because Denis, he's that director, he's going to want to work on location rather than working on like a studio set and lot and everything. So how do the conditions weigh in with your work, and how do you work around all of that?
I'm so glad you're asking this, because film, you're a filmmaker. I mean, I think, full transparency, the Baron was all studio. I mean, he's all studio in Budapest. So how great is that? I mean, that when you read it, you kind of, as an HOD, as a designer, you have to also see, what am I facing? And it was a huge part for me to go, wait a second, let's look here. We never see him in outside.
Yeah.
We don't see him in daylight or in hard light.
Yeah.
And I know Greg his lighting, what he did for us is exquisite, because we're not helped with there is nothing that's, helping tweak this makeup. But then the other thing was looking at, for instance, when we talked about contact lenses, just for a minute, for instance, for Zendaya, Paul Lambert had worked diligently to come up with the eyes, that whole plan.
Yeah.
Because I'd asked him to show me what they were going to do, and I cut a piece out a test they had done and a bit of footage they did on his whole crew. They did a quick test on film of the eye color, kind of violet blue, kind of periwinkle. And I cut it out and I put it up on my boards so that when I was making up Javier Bardem and Zendaya the first time, I could sort of imagine, because I had, when you're doing that makeup, especially more on Javier Bardem, with all that black around his eyes, I had to imagine what will that look like to an audience with his eye color different. When we talked about lenses, we did do a fitting for Zendaya. I remember setting it up in LA at my place where we go, but I thought, no, this is never going to work. We're in the dust and sand and wind, and that's people who wear lenses every day of their lives will be completely. They'll put their glasses on. That's what people who wear lenses. It's the only time they wear their eyeglasses, and you and I both wear them. So, so no contact lenses. The desert poses some challenges. So I think when I figured that out, then for Timmy, for instance, his hair, the desert did amazing things for his hair. But when we got back into the studio, because Denis really was adamant, the paleness of his skin, the creaminess of it had to stay the same. So try 6 weeks in Jordan and then come back to Budapest. So I was strict with him, and Timmy's very, very good and listened to me because he knew I'd be very upset. Baseball cap, sunscreen everywhere he went on the day off. I'd even make him take an umbrella. Like, if I see you outside, I will kick your ass. And I'm serious. And they knew it. And so I really love them for that. Rebecca Ferguson, because Denis, that meant a lot to this film. And then, but with the hair, what was interesting is the sand and the dust and the spice made his hair look great. That was not hairdressing. That was the power of all of this. When we got to Budapest, I would bring him outside and have effects guys turn the fan on to recreate that a little bit and do it up. Here was the problem. Gerd and everybody thought they were helping me by using a makeup-based foundation, like a powder, that was safe. It wasn't toxic to blow initially when they land. At the ornithopter, when he and Josh come out of the ornithopter, they thought they were doing Donald a great favor by putting this non-toxic stuff. But it was like pancake Max Factor old school base. And it made Timmy look like kind of Donald Trump. Yeah. It was sort of orange, and it hit him like it. And you went, and it was like minutes of this circulating, and Timmy was positively orange. And so I had to jump in and then take all that back and have to put my own stuff on and mix dust and different dirts that were of very different colors to bring them back to something. So that was a little bit difficult. The continuity for me, Timmy, Rebecca, and Josh, and of course that stuff was sticking to the scar, and it was changing Josh's overall color completely into a scalp. And then Sharon Duncan Brewster, we had to get a compressor, one of those huge compressor, to get stuff out of her hair.
So it sounded like you had some troubles with good times, right? You spoke a lot about Timmy and sort of a little bit when we first talked, but I think watching it multiple times, you really get to see the layered performance, but then you get to really see the work that you put into him. And I wanted to talk to you about, towards the end of the film, the looks of both Timmy and Rebecca Ferguson, especially Rebecca Ferguson. She looks like you put makeup on her because it's an exhausting experience, that what she's going through. Obviously it's in both of their performances, but can you talk about how you gradually moved, the makeup for both of them? Because when we first see them, they're at that breakfast table, they look very regal, they look very, they look very pretty. And then by the end of this film, the desert has taken its toll. And so how do you show that, along with Denis and their performances?
So it was really, I'm not going to lie to you, Ron. It was hard. It was hard on Rebecca. It's always tricky on somebody like Rebecca. She's so beautiful. She's so statuesque. She's got that skin, all of it, the hair, everything about her. It's really difficult because we're used to seeing that in films on men,
Mhm.
right? And the dirt and the sweat and all that stuff. On Rebecca, I know what Denis wanted, and it has to be kind of there's got to be a balance. They've both gone through the same thing.
Mhm.
So, but she turns into sort of action woman. And I kind of love that because she's this, intellectual superhuman. She does this, she's got that. So I thought, well, why would she be like the girl with like the streak of dirt down her face, like a Charlie's Angels? It's never going to work. They're in the still suit. So I did try. The first time I didn't even do a makeup test. I did them both exactly the same way. And Denis, I had a feeling he'd call me over because I thought, well, let me do the sort of slightly sunburny red Emily Blunt Sicario look.
Mm.
And Emily Blunt said to me, because she rang me one day about something, and she said, come and do this job. She goes, nobody's better at making somebody look really bad but you. And I thought, I take that as a great compliment, Emily Blunt. And I tried it, but it doesn't work on Rebecca. It didn't work. It looked glowy and dewy and beautiful. And Denis caught me. He totally busted me because I was doing one of these where I'm looking to see it, and I could see him go right across the sand, and he called me over, Donald Mowat. And I heard my name and I went like this, and he called me over and he was like, what's this? I said, well, I tried. I thought I would try this and see. And he goes, it doesn't work. And I'm like, no, you're right. It doesn't. And so that's where, and you take it all off. And that's where I stripped it down. And I did Timmy and Rebecca, dark circles, chapped lips, dry faces, like you are exhausted, dehydrated, not rosy and red from the sun. They haven't been there. And that's it. And it worked. But you have to have a director who directs and has creative vision to also stop people like me and give you a note, and which he does. And I'm really grateful for that, because I think I was going the wrong way.
Yeah. No, I think of the scene when they're flying away and being chased, and you have Greg Fraser cinematography, you have the score, but then the close-ups, that's your work, to show that, like, that desperation that they have as they're trying to escape. And when I was watching it again, I was like, yeah, that's a signature look right there of just how makeup can be so important to show those emotions rather than just the acting, And I wanted to talk a little bit about hair, because I think hair is a kind of interesting thing in the film. Obviously, the picture behind me over here displays the beard of the year, is what I like to call it, what Oscar Isaac pulled off in this film. Was there conversations with you and Denis about, like, the way his beard and his hair is going to look, the way that Timmy cut his hair, and and hairstylings as well, for like Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa, them two, especially like Brolin, because he has his head shaved for the film and everything. What are the decisions on hair for the film?
Well, it's funny because it's kind of like, the films that are sort of anti-makeup, anti-hair. I mean, and I think it's a good thing. I think in this film, it's kind of neutral. It was important. It was really important for this. And I was thankful for my team. I think it's important for Denis. It was, funny with Josh, because he's been on my mind. It's his birthday today, by the way. So yeah. Josh has been on my mind because he and Oscar. So it's funny because a lot of talk about the beard, and a lot of people seem to be, jumping and take credit for it. And which I find, just mildly irritating, because it's a lot of work when you get a character who comes into a film. Oscar came in later into the film. We'd already started. We were in Jordan, and I'd established the double. We established a stunt double for Oscar. So I knew he had the beard. I knew he was working out a beard. He had talked to Denis. I'd spoken with him, but every character I'd already boarded. Denis works very much with storyboards with Patrice and Sam, very heavily storyboarded film. So, and I also do, as we talked about mood boards, but storyboards for each actor. And so I get my initial research, whether it's the Baron or Oscar or Javier Bardem, where I start and then where it finishes. So it'll be I think the first one of Oscar to me actually was not with a beard. I don't know why. It wasn't from anything other than I didn't see it that way personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it, and we had his hair wavy, gray, a little bit aged. And then Oscar and Denise spoke before I spoke with him and said, I think I'll, and I thought that was great. And and because he grows a great beard, and we all agreed that's what he would have. And he would continue to grow it, and we would look at it when he arrived. So I photoshopped that, and then I saw the costumes, and Jackie talks about sort of Imperial Russia, which I was referencing. I even went sort of, but he's like Prince Michael of Kent, he's more like, and when you look at it and go, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And the hair has a similarity to Timmy, and Denis loves that sort of thing. You go, but Timmy has the skin of his mother, the paleness of his mother, of Rebecca and Charlotte, all connects. And then Oscar with that, the swoop and this little waviness, mm-hmm. and that all worked, and the dark eyebrows and I think the strong nose. So that's what we did. And Oscar turned up, and then our team, so that's why I really like to give credit to where it's due to our team, the people who worked on the film, and Joe and Cheryl. I mean, getting the pointiness of that beard is getting it. It's Greco-Roman. Yes. That's took a minute, and we did that. And getting it pointy. And then I created a little wrinkly thing here on him because I thought Oscar's he's a very handsome guy. And I said to him, like, it's a high class problem, but let's age it. So I got him, paled him a little bit. He's not as sort of tanned as he normally is. And because where they live, and then aged his eyes. We did add a bit of gray. The hair, clearly there's nothing kind of added, The hardest thing with Oscar was we had additional pickups to do during COVID, and his beard had been taken off for another film. I think the Paul Schrader film, if I'm not mistaken.
For the card counter, yeah.
And the hair. So what you're seeing behind you, which is what we don't talk about, but I think it's fair now to say that's beard extensions and a wig, and that's all us, and nobody can, So I think the thing of design and execution and research and development, and, somebody may have said, oh yeah, I decided. And you go, yeah, but somebody really has to do it.
Yeah.
And come up with it and go. So Denis was very concerned. And honestly, we couldn't have reshot it. We couldn't have, because it wasn't possible. You can't CGI a beard on. You can't. So we came up with something, and I was very lucky and able to get Oscar a few days before, and we did a very extensive test, and Denis felt it was a success. Everybody looked at it, and we were able to do it. So when I look too closely, it makes me nervous, because I think people will look at it and go, and a few friends of mine said, I get it. But I don't want to say too much. But at the same time, I feel like it's nice to share with people, because that was stressful and challenging a long way after, especially when people sort of go, yeah, but it's just a beard. And I go, yeah, but it's not that. It's later on, because that's how it cuts into the film. Mm-hmm. And when you have to pick up, and that when you pick up in a film in the scene where you reshoot something, that's a year, you recreate that. And that beard was way shorter. Mm-hmm. And that hair, he didn't have all this. Mm-hmm. And that's that's a whole wig put on. And that's all. And I had to get that made and redone and recut and add all these extensions through here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it worked, because I did not know that. And I don't think many people know that. I think they just go like, oh my God, Oscar Isaac looks fantastic. And it's like, yeah. But knowing that, it's like, yeah, that makes total amount of sense. Also too, there was like a lift, like you talked about it, there's like a lift in the beard, you know what I mean? Like, throughout the film, I was noticing that with him. Obviously,
also the outfit, the armor, by the way, armor pushed it up.
Yeah.
Which for me was why I was a little bit, and it's a totally their choice and their call. It was because the job I'm on now, I'm dealing a lot with military experts. It's a security thing. It's how certain military outfits, they don't have it because of the security issue, safety issue. Mm-hmm. It's like women with hair too long for certain. Anyway, that was a thing. Josh Brolin, I came up with this thing that was a ridiculous idea, and that got shot down. But it's in all my boards I've kept. It was something so crazy. But the scar on Josh was going to be also a challenge. And I go, how come we got the Baron? Like, bam, we figured that out. And here's the scar. And Josh is so knowledgeable. I mean, you can tell any movie. You can talk to Josh about any movie. There's very few actors. You can talk to him about any film or any actor and reference it. And Josh Brolin knows. I said, Josh, I don't know what to do. And I called him up before he came to Budapest. And I phoned him in California. He goes, Donald, what are you thinking? And I told him, I took some pictures. I had it up. I had him blonde. I had a scar across here. I had a hockey player from, I don't know where, Canada or Denmark with some weird scar. Honestly, Ryan, we tried everything with Josh. Here's the problem. You have had all the top prosthetic makeup people in the business. Billy Corso, this one, that one, Christian Tinsley. You've had everybody. There's not a part of your face you haven't had prosthetics. So I don't know if it's redundant. I don't know if it's a mistake. I don't know. I think it needs to be the opposite. And he kind of stopped for a minute. And he said, I think you're right. I think this is correct. So we reworked it, and I said, give me a day and I'll come back. And I found something of a film from Germany, First World War, an officer with a much more delicate, believable, based in reality, more Denis Villeneuve style, and hair that was buzzed. Mm. And the goatee would fit in the world because of Momoa, because of Oscar Isaac. Yep. And Josh was like, you know what, because we did Sicario and I sort of sold him on something then. And I did something with Josh I'd never done before. And Josh was like, I think Josh thought I was out of my mind the first time we worked together. And he kind of liked it though, because I didn't make him up for the camera test. And he thought it was the strangest thing. Mm-hmm. And he asked me why. And I told Roger Deakins, and he told Roger Deakins, that Mowat guy, like what he did. And Roger was like, I think that's kind of cool because I didn't put makeup on him. And he said, why? And I said, to see what you don't need. Why put makeup on until I see your face? Yeah. And Josh was like, I think that's really cool. Yeah. So we came up with the scar, which he loves. And that took a minute. Greg and Denis really looked at that scar. That came under a lot of scrutiny. And no blonde hair, that would have been a disaster. And it worked. And I think the beard, the length of it, it felt like it belonged in that world. In some ways, to me, it was a better beard than some of the other beards. Just saying. Yeah. In terms of, his uniform and everything. I kind of like
it. For me, it worked because of the fact that, it fits with the character. It's mm-hmm. this warrior, that's been through so many battles, mm-hmm. has scars, and we're able to see it. And that's where him and Timmy have that exchange. When he's talking about how brutal the Harkonnen are, and you see that scar up close and personal, for me at least, on an IMAX screen, and it just and that's the thing is, Denis, he's gonna, how conscious are you of that when you know that your work's going to be up on these giant screens because he's working with these cameras? Mm-hmm. Is there a little more pressure there to know that that makeup is going to be mm-hmm. zoomed in, biggest screen possible around the world when people see it?
I think you just have to do work that's just your best work and fine and detailed and not. I try never to think of the IMAX, that whole thing. It's kind of like digital. I tried never, when we went from 35 millimeter into the digital thing. I learned that with Roger Deakins, because I just think you just have to do good, clean work. And if it starts to look muddy and certainly with that scar, because I had a couple of near misses with that too. The first one I had, it just wasn't great. And mm-hmm. Greg was like, I think it can be better. And Denise sort of, and that shows you, simple is really hard. It really is hard. And because it's in the center of it's right here, and there's enough that you see that you can tell right away if it's wrong. And how many films have you seen where there's a character with a scar? Yeah. It's just, it can be so James Bond. I mean, it's, you know, and I loved my time there, but it's James Bond, it's a Mike Myers film. It's just, it can so easily go to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see people with scars that really have scars, they're often something in only in certain light you see. And that's what I felt. And I sort of felt with Josh, is that, but it's something you see only in certain angles. I love that when you discover that about someone.
Yeah. Can you talk, just a couple more questions real quick?
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the lip makeup, the design of like Stephen McKinley Harrison's character and David Desmalchin? They have these sort of symbols on their lips or on their eyes, the stuff with those characters. I think that, you know, for people of the world, is that with you and Denis, are you looking at text in the book? Are you coming up with like doing the research like you did with Josh and others? Because those characters, while they're not our leads, they are the things that make Dune special. And so,
well, I really appreciate that, because those are little things, you know, by accident. I don't know who talked about that once. And I think I felt like I always wanted to steal that word, pentimento. You know, when Lillian Hellman wrote that in Julia, where you change your mind when you're painting something and you see something behind a painting. And I don't know what she said. It was beautiful. And I hate to misquote because it makes you sound ridiculous, but it is, you know, a cat becomes something else, or a flower becomes something. I was researching as we were just starting to shoot, maybe we were getting into the whole Charlotte Rampling and Lady Jessica. And I was really obsessing about the lip stain. And what somebody kept talking to me on my crew about the David Lynch film. And I wasn't interested. I'm on my own thing. This is our movie. We're making Denis' movie. And that's how I am. And that's how I am. And I finally said to somebody, okay, you really got, and I think I even looked up as I had all my pictures up and went, I'm not on that movie. I'm on this movie. And I was researching staining. And then I thought, why am I doing that? That's basically like, I'm going to plagiarize. I want to find something different. And I started playing with ideas of lip stain. And we photoshopped, like not a lipstick, but actually, you know, when kids drink Kool-Aid, or when we were kids, you know, those little sticks you used to put in the powder and you would rub it around.
Yes.
And I thought, what about that? And I thought, that is so corny, but we tried it. We photoshopped it on a picture of David Desmalchin and on Stephen, and it just looked ridiculous. And as I was looking, I had all my other tattoos for the Fremen and for the Sardaukar, because I was giving them the alphanumeric numbers.
Yes.
Which as I was in the art department to see Patrice and getting the artwork so we could create the tattoos, that made me think of it. It was my moment of going, wait a second. I'm doing tattoos for Sardaukar, which Denis loved, across the forehead. We're doing these little tiny tattoos here on Javier Bardem. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give Zendaya a similar tattoo, Fremen, very faint, right up here. Mm-hmm. Why don't I do a tattoo that's a color? Blackberry, a stain, a wine stain. The red didn't work, so we photoshopped it on David Desmalchin. We were doing his makeup test. I asked the guy, draw it, just use anything, a lip pencil, anything. I want the color of a blackberry. We did it, showed it to Denis. He's like, I deeply love it. We made it as a tattoo. We put it on, did it on Stephen Henderson, and that was it.
Oh, it's fantastic work. And I mean, then you're, even with tattoos, you're kind of doing that with Rebecca in that dream sequence there too, which we talked about last time, which that's incredible work and everything too. No, all that, I was going to mention that, but you did perfectly and everything. It's like, it's all those little details to make those characters just stand out on their own and make your version, like you said, stand. Well, I got one more question for you, and this is the big question. This is what we were talking about last time, and it happened. Okay. So you can't back out of this one now, Donald.
Okay.
They announced that you're going to make with Denis part 2, And
Right.
so I must ask you, I know that you guys are filming sometime next year, or late this year, early next year, or whatever.
Mhm.
Have you already started, you know, kind of thinking about ideas? Have you started talking with Denis about it? I mean, you guys are running around during this award season, but has there ever been like a moment where you're like, okay, he talked to me about if we did part two, this is something here, or are you just like sitting back waiting for when you get to go back to Arrakis?
Um, no, do you know, it came up only, when did it happen? I think people were asking a lot in the Q&A world.
Mhm,
Um, just is it, one of the biggest problems wasn't a problem, was I think because of the situation of the world,
mhm.
excuse me, people thought we were being coy, and I'm like, nobody's being coy. I just don't know what's happening tomorrow, right? You're always afraid you're going to be shut down, and seemingly we're not. And here I am on another movie. No, I think it's a question of it's percolating. Like he's got his thing to do. I'm thinking, I'm thinking a couple of, like, I've had a few things where I went, oh, but I know it's too soon. It's like a little bit too soon, but it's coming. And when it's ready, it'll be ready, but it's later. And I felt like everybody's sort of, I know that a few of us have kind of said it's too soon, but we're all being very patient. And yeah, I think we're being very polite, very patient, very respectful of his process. And that's how he works. And when we get closer, but I do kind of feel like, I've talked to Josh and Rebecca and everybody, but more, um, yeah, I think it's good because we all have to be together, I think, and start to, that's how we really work. And everybody's on their own projects as well right now, pretty much everybody. But I'm kind of getting some ideas that I would be able to start to share so I feel ready. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, my biggest fear is that because of the whole situation of what we've all been through the last couple of years is supplies and stuff. That's my only, because when I was looking at Oscar, I was like, how am I going to get that if I had to do it again? Like,
Mm,
supplies of things are low, as you know.
yeah.
Um, Everywhere you go right now to buy, here I am, like, I can't buy certain things. A lot of my supplier, even on the films I've been on, subsequently, I can't get them.
Mhm.
As you know, workforce is slower. That's the kind of thing I would think about. So we all kind of do our thing, but for us, I'd say makeup, hair, prosthetics. Um, that's about the only thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are challenges, but I know that you and Denis and this and fantastic crew will all get it together. I know that just looking at your face right now, you're excited to go back. I know that when we talked in the past, I know you weren't being coy. I know you were just nervous, like we all were, about seeing if we were going to get part two. And I think based off everyone's reactions and everything, we're all excited to see the next part of it. I know you are as well too. So
I just felt like I was so nervous at one point because I didn't know. I didn't know. Well, none of us did what was going to happen because things were, and we see a change coming, but people were losing everything. People were, losing insurance, and there were more important things. I think for me, and a lot happened, losing my dad. There's a lot happened. And it's been, we've talked a bit about that. A lot happened that seemed more important. And for me was kind of, okay, let's get through this. And then I know what's coming, but also, look, we love making movies. We love it. And I love this. I love this movie. I can't pretend I don't. I love it. And I love the people. And when all this stuff came out with the awards, more than anything, I thought that was kind of, somebody was asking about it. And I just thought that's the reward of the award, was to get to work on a movie after all these years. And we spoke about that. It was like 30, I don't know, 35, 36 years working on this. Obviously, I love it. I do love it. But yeah, I mean, that's something that meant a lot to me. And I got to work in movies, in
yeah.
feature motion pictures all those years. So as it all came out, I was like, talking to Jake. Actually, we had a very nice talk about that the other day, because we were saying he was a little kid working in films, and I was
Yeah.
barely just coming out of being a little kid, saying, yeah, but you remember when, I don't know, when a focus puller the other day said we worked together on a movie 20 years ago. Remember when we used to reload, when actually you reloaded camera and they reloaded sound? Everybody went for a cigarette. Remember that? So that history of 25 and 30 years ago, as it relates now, and talking to Wahlberg when going back, like post Boogie Nights, and you're going, that is 30 years ago, right? It
Right.
suddenly hit me. So yeah, to be around those guys, I'd be thrilled to go back and to be with everybody, and Timmy and all of them, really. Dave Bautista, yeah, they're kind of lifelong friends. It's rare, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think you might be seeing them sooner rather than making part two, because you'll all be at the Oscars together. And I think that,
How about that?
yeah,
That's
and I think you should probably have an acceptance speech ready on hand just in case. Because I know, fingers crossed, I know, but I think that your work is that great, and we're all rooting
thank
for you,
you.
and the film is fantastic, and so thank you so
You're,
much
but
for.
thank you. But I felt that when we talked about it, you've been so like you completely. I feel like you're a kindred spirit, So that I know that, and thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for sitting down with me, Donald.